Atari Age became an official part of Atari just a few years back, and it was a move that only made sense. Atari Age, for all intents and purposes, has been Atari to the community for a long time. It was the forums where everybody who still had interest in the company got together. It was the place that new discoveries were announced, new projects were started and finished, and probably most importantly, where new games could be obtained and played. AtariAge was a very big part of the Atari legacy, and they have etched out a permanent place in the history of the company and its community. But once AtariAge became a part of Atari proper, things had to change. There were many games of questionable legality that could no longer be carried on the website, and many of these games were considered to be the best on the website. Thus, a void was left in the Atari homebrew world, and especially that of the 7800. And it was a hole that somebody was inevitably going to fill. Thus enters Opcode. Opcode is not a new entity. It did not pop up around the void created by AtariAge pulling its games off the market. Of course, AtariAge didn't pull every game off the market, but many of the popular titles like Popeye, anything with Pac-Man, and anything that required a license from another company was pulled from the store. Opcode has been active in the Coleco community for a while, and has produced and sold hardware and games for a few years now. And because of that, Opcode was uniquely positioned to offer up those games that are now missing from AtariAge, especially those of the 7800 and the 2600. Given that they were involved with a console and community that is roughly from the same time frame, that uses similar technology, or at least technology from the same era, it wasn't much of a leap for Opcode in a technology sense. And Opcode was able to form a relationship with the biggest developers that are most prominent in the Atari 7800 homebrew world, and they were able to acquire the games that left the biggest hole in the market. So with the 2600 Plus and 7800 Plus becoming notable successes for Atari, it's only logical that people new to the homebrew world would want the best and most interesting homebrew titles. Popeye, Baby Pac-Man, Donkey Kong PK and XM, and Mooncresta, just to name a few. So Opcode stepped up and created the cartridges that the collectors wanted, at a price that is, well, familiar to the community. Atari has us spoiled with these $35 cartridges, but smaller operations have sold these same games for $50 to $60 for a while now. And Opcode has not disrupted this norm. People with long-standing relationships with AtariAge, and people that are new to the hobby in general, were no doubt hesitant to trust Opcode, and perhaps rightfully so. It seemed that the company came out of nowhere to a lot of us, and they were offering the titles that people wanted the most, all featured on a website that was, well, a little sketchy to say the least. But it appears that Opcode is on the up and up, as their offerings on the Atari 7800 have been hitting mailboxes for the last month or two. I myself have received each of their titles for review, and these were given to me freely by Opcode for that purpose. But I have seen that other people on Facebook have been receiving their packages too, and have been doing so since early August. I have also heard that people are still waiting on their packages, but Opcode has been forthright in what's been causing delays, as long as you subscribe to their newsletter. Make sure you sign up with the link in the description if you are still waiting for your game. But until then, let's review my experience with the games, unboxing them, and how they compare to their AtariAge forefathers. A lot of this is going to be subjective, so I'll let you decide for yourself whether you prefer these or the AtariAge originals. I'll just give you the facts and some of my opinions. I was surprised when opening the box that the Opcode games came in, as the packaging was a fair amount larger than the original Atari 7800 boxes, and by extension the AtariAge boxes. The height, width, and depth are all larger, but not so much so to rival the old computer-sized boxes that Absolute 7800 games came in. The boxes themselves are made of thick cardboard, layered with a matte finish featuring arcade-accurate box art. It'll be up to you whether you prefer this arcade-style art or the community-drawn stuff and the more modern stuff from the Atari Age releases. The Opcode boxes follow their Coleco styling, but it also has something in common with the original 1984 Warner packaging for the Atari 7800. That's to say that there is a grid with the artwork sitting in the front of it. The printing and artwork is clear, clean, and the whole thing looks nice. There are two strong magnets that hold the side flap shut, but can easily be lifted up to access the full-color manual and the translucent cartridge. And the cartridges themselves have various colors. They look cool, and the whole thing is professional. The labels on the cartridges follow the box art styling as well. Now me personally, well, I really like what Opcode did here. Sometimes opening up AtariAge boxes felt difficult, especially if you didn't want to mangle the flaps. At the very least, I would usually end up with some creases in the flaps, and the trays on the inside of the AtariAge boxes were functional, but less than ideal. Opcode seems to be well thought out in its application and design of their boxes, and I appreciate that. It might be lacking nostalgia for the original style boxes, but the designs hold their own nostalgia for people who enjoyed the arcade originals. But the games themselves are what matters, and the ROMs programmed onto these carts work flawlessly on the Atari 7800 and 7800 Plus. The Popeye release seems to have the fixes of the later Atari Age revision, with the scoring fixed on the second level and whatnot, but also has an option menu that wasn't present before. All mentions of Atari Age have rightfully been replaced with Opcode in every release, and I've been told that some minor bug fixes and additions have been applied to every game. But overall, well, they're the same great games that we had access to years ago, made available in the here and now. Popeye is the standout title in this first wave of releases, and the ones that most newcomers are usually most interested in. And Daryl 1970 did a great job making this port as accurate to the arcade as possible. But if the original proves too difficult, you can always bump down the difficulty and give it a go. And thanks to the new menu, you can bump it down even lower. Then there's Mooncresta, which is a unique but really hard space shooting title. Its charm comes in the 3 different ships representing your 3 lives. The first ship is small and thus harder for the enemies to hit, but only shoots a single bullet. The second ship is a bit larger, but now you have 2 spaced out bullets. And the third is a massive ship that's hard to dodge with, and your 2 shots are even wider apart. Mooncresta is fun, and there's elements that you can only see if you're able to keep your first or second ship alive, especially in the docking scene. But man, it's hard to keep any of the ships alive. This game, well, it's not for the weak of heart. Keystone Coppers is a reimagining of the Activision classic, Keystone Capers, where you must capture a thief trying to rob a department store. It's a simple cops and robbers style game that takes place inside a department store with 4 levels, with which you need to catch the thief in. And Muddy Funster, the developer, has added some cool elements to the original formula, mainly the cutscenes, which looks excellent, and adds a nice interlude to the game. Now this version is missing the cool manual of the Atari Age release, but the manuals with these titles are really nice. They're glossy and they feel great to the touch and feel very durable. So it's a give and take. I think I prefer the Atari Age manual, but this one is fine, and honestly, how often do you look at the manuals anyway? But finally, we have Uni Wars, which I find to be the least interesting of this wave of games. Now, it plays fine, but it feels very typical of the space shooters of its time. There are unique elements, like where the enemies attack from above and below you, but sometimes it feels borderline unfair to play. Although this Opcode release feels a little bit easier than the Atari Age release, at least that I remember. Outside of these games, Opcode already has plans of releasing Baby Pac-Man, Pac-Line, Donkey Kong PK, KC Munchkin, Astro Blaster, and Astro Fighter this winter. So far, they have acquired a large and diverse catalog that is sure to please 7800 and 2600 Plus owners. And the quality of their software and the physical items themselves, well, they really can't be beat for the price. If you're hesitant to order from Opcode, I hope this video eased your mind, because I feel that they can be trusted. It would go a long way for them to fix up their website and make things look safer and more inviting. But as of right now, I'm telling you, you have nothing to fear, and only great games to gain. And honestly, we need a company like Opcode in the Atari market right now. We need them to fill that void that AtariAge left us with when they took some of their most popular games off their website. We need a place for these fantastic games to be released and made available to the public. And we need a way to financially reward the developers for their hard work into this hobby. Opcode is alright, and I hope you'll give them a chance, if you're interested in what they have to offer. But you've heard my thoughts on Opcode and their games, so now it's time to hear from all of you. Have you ordered from Opcode? Are you happy with the games that you got? Will you order from them again? Let me know about this and anything else you have to say about Opcode, its games, or the AtariAge games and how they compare to the Opcode releases down in the comments below. And please, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We cover all things Atari, so be sure to keep up with the channel by hitting the bell icon. Okay guys, it's time to go play some Popeye on my 7800 Plus. I've been the 7800 Pro Gamer, a man who's strong to the finish, cause I eats me my spinach, here at the Atari Network. And I'd like to thank you all for watching. And until next time, remember to stay classy, Atarians.